Happy holidays, everybody, and Tony here with my review of Puccini's Madama Butterfly with conductor Tomasz Neptopil, which I saw last night at the Staatsoper unter den Linden. This marks the third time I caught Eike Grams's production of Puccini's Madama Butterfly at the Staatsoper Berlin because I wanted to see, hear, and witness Corinne Winters as Cio-Cio-San. I have been listening to Corinne Winters mainly through live streams and through some recordings of her on YouTube. One of my earliest experiences with listening to Corinne Winters was her performance as Fiordiligi from Mozart's Così fan tutte live from the Royal Opera House in London. I remained thoroughly impressed with her full lyric soprano voice that has sufficient agility, grace, and womanly charms, and she has that elegant and lovely stage presence which made her thoroughly renowned in roles such as Violetta Valéry, Fiordiligi, of course, Yenufa, and even a lot of the fuller lyric and bordering spinto soprano roles that she continues to specialize in these days. And hearing her live made me feel that she grew a lot more impressively as a singing actress. I remain in total awe at the growth and development her voice has been taking on, and it is just a translucent voice that radiated throughout the theater, a voice that has that crystalline quality that is clear and even and well balanced all throughout the registers. There was not one moment that I thought she was wobbly, and more importantly, her coordinated chest tones and full-on chest tones were thoroughly astounding. Yes, there were some occasions where her coordinated chest tones could use a little bit more strength and a little bit more support rather than have certain occasions where it sounded slightly collapsed. But what she was able to accomplish was nothing short of amazing. Sure, one could ask for a lot more of a vocal miracle for Cio-Cio-San, such as the ones found in Maria Callas being the prime example, or if you want someone with a lot more Italianità, you could probably go for someone like Licia Albanese or Montserrat Caballé, or even Mafalda Favero or Mirella Freni or Raina Kabaivanska. But regardless, Corinne Winters was absolutely astounding as Cio-Cio-San, and her musical efforts managed to be at her absolute strongest and her most absolute brilliance. Speaking of absolute strongest, Brian Yagde struck a really formidable first impression on me as the listener. I've heard a lot of things about Brian Yagde. I've even read his biography about how his career had been growing, starting out from a lot of the lyrical and bordering spinto tenor roles to nowadays specializing in a lot more of the dramatic tenor and Helden tenor roles. And hearing him last night as Pinkerton was nothing short of exciting and thrilling. There is that metallic quality that was evident in his voice, especially when it rang throughout the theater and just had that clarion timbre that made him thoroughly exciting to listen to and witness. That is just how brilliant Brian Yagde was as a singing actor, and that dapper, handsome, and virile stage presence made him thoroughly exciting to witness to the point where I was enamored with his efforts as a consummate singing actor. There was technical security all the way through, and at times his voice reminds me of a bit of an amalgamation of Richard Tucker and Daniele Barioni, two of my most favorite Pinkertons of all time. But here, Brian Yagda is in a class of his own, and he just managed to sell it thoroughly as Pinkerton. Voice, stage presence, and all. Natalia Skritska was beautifully coordinated as Sutsuki, all thanks to her trademark mezzo-soprano voice that just seems to grow in beauty, coordination, and brilliance. And just by listening to her as Sutsuki, I remain thoroughly convinced that she definitely knows how to use her instrument to the best of her abilities and make it shine with everything that she's got. She definitely knew how to take advantage of that naturally pleasing quality to her voice and also ensure that there's a lot of vocal acting being put to fine use. And therefore, she did fabulously as Sutsuki. Then we have Lauri Vassar as Sharpless, a tall, handsome, virile baritone who also has that manliness to him and that roundness and richness that made him thoroughly engaging to listen to as well as to witness. He stood toe-to-toe with Corinne Winters, Brian Yagde, and Natalia Skritska as absolutely astounding performers, and his efforts as Sharpless were really well executed all the way through. The results of what he was able to present in Sharpless was also thoroughly involving and engaging, all thanks to his vocal prowess. Sure, one could ask for a little bit more refinement a la Piero Cappuccilli or Matteo Manugera, but what I managed to hear from Lauri Vassar is that he had that roundness and richness that made him thoroughly handsome and thoroughly exciting to listen to. I also want to bring up the astounding contributions done by Sandra Laagus as a silvery toned and absolutely crystalline Kate Pinkerton. Andres Moreno Garcia used his trademark full lyric tenor voice to his greatest ability to make the character of Goro come to life, and just did so with a lot of charismatic handsomeness and charm, as well as that anti-heroic sense of loving to hate him, but at the same time just can't help but feel totally invested with Goro. And that's just how much of a convincing singing actor Andres Moreno Garcia was. Then we also have Irakli Picolodze, who was a noble Prince Yamadori, all thanks to how he was able to modulate his rich, round, and handsome bass baritone voice to make this character come to life. Gerard Ferreras may not be the most uber imposing, but he has that nobility to make the role of the Bonze come to life and therefore strike a unique impression on this role to make his performance quite well done. Although it's not the most uber imposing, it's still a very well sung voice that he managed to produce, and therefore I still have to salute him for his fine and superb efforts. Han Song-yoon was absolutely handsome as the Imperial Commissioner, and I dare not forget about the other superb efforts done by Ileana Buch-Gunescu as Cio-Cio-San's mother, Olga Vilenskaya as her aunt, Michel Cousson as the cousin, Thomas Neubauer as Uncle Yakuside, and Elisa Zielinska as Sorrow, or Dolore in Italian. So overall, the singing was absolutely exciting and really brilliant all the way through. Corinne Winters and Brian Yagde managed to do fabulous jobs all the way through, and their unique vocal contributions made their performances as Cio-Cio-San and Pinkerton all the more exciting. They were able to produce a lot of exciting vocal work together, and their efforts as a stage couple managed to be thoroughly well rewarded. So bravo to the both of them, and they were able to just strike such a strong vocal impression on me, just hearing them live and complete with a lot of excitement. Special mention also has to go to Natalia Skritska, Lauri Vassar, Sandra Agus, Gerard Ferreras, Hansung Yun, Irakli Picaladze, Andres Moreno Garcia, and all the other members of the singers who have their bit parts, and especially Elisa Zielinska as Dolore for doing such fabulous jobs in their respective roles. The conducting done by Tomasz Netopil was thoroughly intense and exciting. He knew how to build up that tension in the orchestra. He knew when to add in some nuances as well. And he just made the evening all the more awesome to witness. And he kept up that orchestra and chorus into great shape. And of course, the chorus and the orchestra of the Staatsoper unter den Linden were thoroughly astounding. Corinne Winters was an absolute beauty as Cio-Cio-San, both vocally and dramatically. She was able to convince me so well that she had the vocal goods to make the role work in her favor. And I also dare not forget that she hit spectacular high D flats all around, thus making her vocal assets all the more worthwhile listening to. So if you're really hankering for a performance of Cio-Cio-San starring Corinne Winters, then by all means go for it. You'll definitely be excited to see and hear what she has to offer, and you will not be disappointed whatsoever. I also have to salute Brian Jagde for his vocally exciting Pinkerton, as both his metallic, dramatic tenor voice and Corinne Winters' full lyric soprano voice blended so beautifully and so excitingly that I was left at the edge of my seat. Therefore, they receive high marks for me all across the board, and this was definitely an exciting evening for opera last night. And for those of you who caught last night's performance of Madama Butterfly by Giacomo Puccini at the Staatsoper unter den Linden, what'd you think of it? Did you feel that Corinne Winters was at her absolutely amazing vocal best? Was there a part of her voice that you think needs a lot more improvement? Did you feel that Brian Jagde stole her thunder? Or did you feel like the singing was not really to your liking? Please let me know in the comments below. Well, that's it for my review of Puccini's Madama Butterfly at the Staatsoper unter den Linden, starring Corinne Winters as Cio-Cio-San. Tune in tomorrow for my review of yet another production of Puccini's Madama Butterfly, but this time at the Deutsche Oper Berlin. So until then, happy holidays, everybody!